In 1908, a former slave built a town in California, the only town governed entirely by Black Americans. By 1914, newspapers called it the ideal settlement. Black families could own land and live free from racism. Today, the water contains arsenic at 15 times the legal limit. Residents cannot drink from their taps. Not for decades. This is Allensworth, California, and this is how America poisoned its only black town. The story starts with one man. To understand what happened here, we need to go back to 1842, to a slave named Allen in Kentucky. Allen Allensworth was born into slavery in Louisville. He entered the world as property. His father tried to buy freedom. His mother named him after Bishop Richard Allen, founder of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. She wanted him to dream. When Allen was a child, a Quaker woman taught him to read in secret. This was forbidden. Slaves were not allowed to learn. When the owner discovered what Allen had learned, the boy was beaten and sold. But he never stopped reading on his own. Allen tried to escape slavery many times. Each time he was caught, each time he was sold again, traded like livestock. Eventually, a horse racer purchased him for $960. His ability to read made him especially useful. Then came 1862. The Civil War began. Allen saw his chance at freedom. He joined the Union Army at last. He enlisted in the 44th Illinois Volunteer Infantry. The next year, he transferred to the United States Navy. For the first time in his life, Allen Allensworth received a paycheck as a free man. He was no longer property of anyone. He rose quickly through the ranks. Captain Steward, Petty Officer First Class. He served on warships until war ended. After the war, Allen educated himself. He worked as a teacher. In 1871, he became a Baptist minister. In 1877, he married Josephine Lavelle, a teacher, pianist, and activist. Together, they would build. Allen discovered something troubling. The 4 black regiments in the army had no black chaplains, not a single one. He lobbied for years. In 1886, President Cleveland appointed him chaplain of the 24th Infantry. The 24th Infantry was legendary. The Buffalo Soldiers. Allen became the second black officer in Army history. He served at military posts across the American West for 20 years, from New Mexico to Montana to Utah territories. For 2 decades, he ministered to black soldiers. He taught them to read. He helped them send money home to families. He became famous as a speaker. His lecture, 5 Manly Virtues, drew crowds across the country. Thousands came to listen. In 1906, Allen retired as lieutenant colonel, the highest rank ever achieved by a black American until then. Born a slave, beaten for reading, sold multiple times, and yet he became the highest-ranking black officer in America. But Allen Allensworth was not finished. At 66 years old, most men would rest. He had a completely different plan. His vision was radical. A town where black Americans could own land, run businesses, govern themselves, no white control, no Jim Crow laws, no violence, no fear, just freedom. A place where black families could build generational wealth. He was not alone. William Payne from Denison University joined him. Together with 3 others, they formed a company. On August 3, 1908, they purchased 20 acres in Tulare County, near the Santa Fe Railroad Station. The town was first called Solito, then renamed Allensworth, to honor the man whose dream made everything possible. Word spread across the country. Black families from everywhere wanted in. Some bought land without ever seeing it first. They built everything from nothing. Houses, streets, a water system, every nail hammered by black hands, every brick. By 1910, Allensworth had its own school district, the first black school district in California state history. Then came a Baptist church, a hotel, a courthouse, a library branch, all built by the community, all owned by them. A post office, a general store, a blacksmith shop, a real town, a functioning town, a thriving town from nothing. The California Eagle wrote, "Not a single white person has anything to do with the affairs of the colony." Independence. The Los Angeles Times called it the ideal Negro settlement. Newspapers from coast to coast took notice of their work. By 1914, the community owned 900 acres. Total value exceeded $112,000. Allen continued traveling the country, speaking, recruiting settlers. He dreamed this would be the first of many towns. He told audiences that in the Army, courage had no color. Black Americans thirsted for equality. Allensworth proved it. They built something real. A community where Black Americans proved they could thrive without white control or approval. But not everyone was happy. Some looked at Allensworth and saw a threat, a black town that was working far too well. This was 1914 America. Black success was seen as dangerous across the nation, something to be stopped. Allensworth was doing everything right, building wealth, creating institutions that made powerful people uncomfortable. September 1914. Everything was about to change. The dream would begin to crumble piece by piece. September 14th, 1914. Allen Allensworth was in Monrovia, crossing the street when a motorcycle hit. The founder was gone, 72 years old. The man who survived slavery and war was taken by a random accident. The town lost more than its founder. They lost their visionary, their protector, the man who knew how to navigate. But his death was only the beginning of their troubles. That same year, something else disappeared. The railroad. The Santa Fe Railroad had been the economic lifeline. Suddenly, the company moved the station to Alpine nearby. Think about that. No trains stopping in Allensworth anymore. No passengers. No freight. The economic heart vanished. The water company had promised to supply water to the town. They broke that promise. Equipment could not pump deep. But here is what makes this darker. The water table was not dropping on its own. White farmers were diverting it. Tulare Lake was once the largest freshwater lake west of the Rockies. Its waters were drained to serve white farms. The railroad moved to white towns. Water flowed to white farms. Allensworth was being strangled, slowly and legally. This was not a mob with torches. This was quieter, infrastructure decisions that just happened to destroy Black Town. 1929 brought the Great Depression crashing down. Then drought came. 5 brutal years of suffering. Crops failed completely. Jobs vanished overnight. Families who built everything from nothing watched it all crumble. The population collapsed. By 1930, fewer than 300 remained in the town. The dream was dying. Those who stayed tried everything. New wells, different crops. They adapted and improvised and held on together. They refused to let Allen Allensworth's dream disappear, even as the world seemed determined to erase their town. Then came 1966, and with it came the final blow, the discovery that would seal their fate forever. California water inspectors made a discovery. Something was wrong with the water in Allensworth. Something dangerous. Arsenic in the main water supply. At levels far exceeding any safety standard, they had been drinking poison. Arsenic has no taste, no smell, no color. You cannot detect it at all, but it accumulates in your body over time. Long-term exposure causes bladder cancer and lung cancer, kidney damage, diabetes, nervous system destruction. The people of Allensworth had consumed this toxin for years. Their children drank it daily. For how long? Unknown. State officials knew about the arsenic since the 60s. They had the test results. And what did they do about it? They scheduled Allensworth for demolition. Not repair, not assistance, demolition. Erase the town completely. The message was clear. This community was not worth saving. These people were not worth helping. Tear it all down. Most residents left after the discovery. Who could blame them? But 34 families refused to leave their home. Think about other black towns. Tulsa, 1921, a thriving community burned down. Hundreds lost lives. Rosewood, Florida, 1923, destroyed completely by mob violence. The entire population driven out. Oscarville, Georgia, 1912. Black residents forced from their land. It later became Lake Lanier Resort. Allensworth was not burned. No one was attacked. But the pattern is the same. Success, then destruction, erasure. Activist Sasha Bisco said it perfectly. Most black towns were either burned down, destroyed, or crippled by design. Allensworth was crippled. Railroad moved away, water diverted, then arsenic. Each blow weakened them even further. And through all of this, nobody was ever held accountable. No one faced consequences. No one even apologized. This happened in California, in America, not in 1860, in 1966, within living memory. But the story does not end there. In 1969, a man named Cornelius Ed Pope began fighting back hard. Pope had lived in the Allensworth family home as a child. He knew what this place meant. He refused to let it die. He lobbied California state parks. He spoke to politicians. Allensworth was heritage to preserve, not garbage. In 1976, Colonel Allensworth State Historic Park opened. The original town site was finally saved. The town was saved from bulldozers. But the water problem, the arsenic contamination, that was never fixed at all. Today, Allensworth has about 531 residents. The population has shifted dramatically over time. When founded, it was 97% black. Today, over 90% Latino, mostly migrant farm workers. Average income is $8,413 per year, one of the poorest places in California. Many homes have no sewage systems at all. Residents use outhouses, no natural gas. Some cook meals over open fires. The water remains poisoned today. Arsenic is still 15 times the legal limit. Residents must buy bottled water. Some families spend $100 monthly on drinking water, money they do not have, for water should be free. Resident Denise Kadara said, "It's simply, it is like living in Flint with lead in your water. Same problem, same neglect." Leader Coyote Kadara remembers what old-timers said. When Allensworth was founded, they were promised help with water. That help was coming, they said. It never came. More than 100 years later, the community is still waiting. A 2022 state audit was damning. Nearly 1 million Californians drink unsafe water, mostly communities of color. The State Water Board showed a lack of urgency in providing assistance. Lack of urgency. After 100 years. But Allensworth is not waiting for government anymore. They are finding solutions themselves. They always have. In 2021, the community began testing hydropanels, solar-powered devices that pull water from the air. 2 panels were installed near the school. The water they produce is completely free of arsenic, pure and clean. The plan is 2 panels at every home. Each produces about 1 gallon of clean water daily. Not much, but something. For a community promised help for a century, even 1 gallon of clean water feels like a small miracle at last. Allen Allensworth was born into slavery, beaten for reading, sold multiple times. He rose above it all somehow. He escaped, fought for the Union, became a minister, served 20 years as chaplain, reached the highest rank. Then he built a town. He proved Black Americans could govern themselves, could thrive, could build something. That town was not burned by mobs. It was starved, dehydrated, poisoned over decades by decisions made far away. Today, more than a century after founding, the people of Allensworth still cannot drink their own tap water. This is not ancient history. This is happening right now, in California, in America, today. As you watch this, their story deserves to be told. The builders deserve remembrance. The residents today deserve clean water. If this made you think, leave a comment below. Had you heard of Allensworth before today? Most people have not. Subscribe for more forgotten stories like this one. Stories history tried to erase. Stories that still matter.